In the fluorescent-lit hell of Vanguard Advertising's 42nd floor conference room in downtown Chicago, 25-year-old Sophia Reyes stood frozen as her boss, Richard "Dick" Harlan, tore her pitch deck to shreds in front of the entire creative team and the client. "This is amateur hour, Vice," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension that everyone in the room had come to expect. "Stick figures could do better than this garbage. Maybe if you spent less time on TikTok and more time learning how to do your job, we wouldn't be losing accounts." The client shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Sophia felt the heat rise in her cheeks, the familiar knot of humiliation twisting in her gut. She'd worked 80-hour weeks on that campaign, pulling all-nighters fueled by cold coffee and sheer determination. And in one cruel minute, Dick made her feel small again, just like he had every day for the past 3 years. But as she gathered her crumpled notes and walked out, something shifted inside her. This wasn't just another bad day. This was the day she decided Dick Harlan would one day be nothing more than a footnote in her story. Sophia had always been the underdog who refused to stay down. Raised by a single mom in Pilsen, Chicago's vibrant Mexican-American neighborhood, she'd grown up watching her mother clean offices downtown while dreaming bigger for her daughter. Sophia graduated top of her class from the University of Illinois with a degree in advertising and digital media, landing the junior art director role at Vanguard straight out of college. It was supposed to be her big break, the kind of agency that handled Super Bowl spots for Fortune 500 brands. Instead, it became her daily battlefield. Dick Harlan was the kind of boss who thrived on fear. In his late 50s, with a receding hairline he combed over aggressively and a wardrobe of ill-fitting suits, he'd been at Vanguard for decades, rising through the ranks in the Mad Men era when bullying passed for leadership. He belittled junior staff openly, took credit for their ideas, and had a special knack for targeting women and people of color. "You're here because of diversity quotas," he'd hiss at Sophia during reviews. "Prove you belong." He'd assign her the worst accounts, overload her with impossible deadlines, then publicly shame her when she inevitably missed one because he'd withheld resources. Once, after she won a minor industry award for a pro bono campaign, he announced in a team meeting, "Don't let it go to your head, Reyes. It's not like you beat real competition." The office culture enabled him. Senior partners turned blind eyes because Dick still brought in old-school clients, beer brands, car dealerships, legacy accounts that paid the bills. Younger staff whispered about quitting, but Chicago's ad scene was brutal, jobs were scarce, and Vanguard's name opened doors. Sophia endured because she loved the work, the thrill of turning a blank brief into a viral campaign, the rush of seeing her visuals on billboards along Lakeshore Drive. But endurance has a breaking point. The final straw came during the pitch for Apex Beverages, a craft soda brand desperate to go national. Sophia had poured her soul into it, bold, inclusive visuals celebrating Chicago's diverse neighborhoods, paired with a social media strategy that leveraged Gen Z influencers. It was fresh, authentic, everything Vanguard's stale portfolio lacked. But Dick hijacked the presentation at the last minute, claiming executive oversight. He gutted her concepts, replacing them with tired tropes, bikini-clad models on beaches, because sex sells, sweetheart. The client passed. In the aftermath, Dick cornered her in his corner office overlooking the Chicago River. "You almost cost us a 7-figure account with your woke nonsense," he barked. "Shape up or ship out." That night, Sophia didn't go home to her tiny Logan Square apartment. She sat in a 24-hour diner on Milwaukee Avenue, nursing black coffee and staring at her laptop. Tears came first, hot, angry ones. Then resolve. She wasn't going to let Dick define her worth. She opened a new document and typed, "Reyes Creative Studio, Business Plan." Revenge, she decided, wouldn't come from confrontation. It would come from outgrowing him so completely that he became irrelevant. The next 6 months were pure grit. Sophia stayed at Vanguard by day, playing the dutiful employee while quietly building her escape. Nights and weekends, she freelanced under a pseudonym, taking on small projects for local nonprofits and startups. She cold-emailed every contact she'd made, clients who'd complimented her work, vendors she'd collaborated with, even junior staff at rival agencies. Her pitch was simple: fresh ideas, fair treatment, results without the ego. She saved every penny, skipping vacations, cooking rice and beans like her mom taught her. When her ancient MacBook died, she worked at public libraries. Doubt crept in constantly. What if no one followed her? What if she failed and ended up back in a toxic office? But every time Dick belittled her in a meeting, it fueled her fire. The launch of Reyes Creative Studio was understated, a one-woman operation out of a co-working space in the West Loop. Her first client was a small Latino-owned bakery in Pilsen that Dick had once dismissed as too niche. Sophia turned their social media into a sensation. Vibrant photos, community stories, partnerships with local artists. Sales tripled in months. Word spread. Then the dominoes started falling. A junior copywriter from Vanguard quit and joined her, tired of Dick's rants. Then a graphic designer. Then a social media strategist. Sophia hired them at better salaries with flexible hours and actual respect. She instituted "no assholes" as an official policy. Clients followed, first the ones Dick had ignored, then bigger fish who'd grown frustrated with Vanguard's outdated approach. Suspense built as Vanguard began to feel the pinch. Accounts quietly moved to Reyes Creative without public drama. Apex Beverages came knocking after their Dick-approved campaign flopped. Sophia's new pitch, diverse, digital-first, authentic, won them over instantly. The contract was worth millions. Dick noticed too late. At first, he raged in meetings, disloyal millennials jumping ship. He tried poaching back talent with empty promises. When that failed, he badmouthed Sophia industry-wide, calling her studio affirmative action advertising. But Chicago's creative community had changed. Younger clients wanted agencies that reflected the city's diversity, that understood TikTok and inclusivity. Vanguard's stock of old guard clients aged out. New ones went elsewhere. The breaking point came during Advertising Week Chicago. Reyes Creative had a packed panel on the future of inclusive branding, with Sophia as keynote. The room overflowed, standing room only. Across town, Vanguard's event featuring Dick drew a sparse crowd of retirees sipping bad coffee. Social media buzzed with comparisons, #Reyes rising versus #Vanguard fading. Sophia never confronted Dick directly. She didn't need to. Success was the sharpest revenge. Reyes Creative grew to 50 employees in 3 years, moving into sleek offices in the Fulton Market District. They landed national campaigns for major brands, always innovative, always ethical. Sophia made Forbes 30 Under 30, graced magazine covers, spoke at TEDx Chicago. Her mom cried watching her on local news. Vanguard, meanwhile, hemorrhaged talent and clients. The board forced a restructuring. Dick was quietly demoted to senior advisor, a meaningless title with no team, no budget. He spent days in his shrinking office, scrolling LinkedIn as former subordinates thrived without him. The agency eventually merged with a larger firm, his name erased from the letterhead. Years later, at a charity gala for Chicago arts education, Sophia spotted him across the room, alone at the bar, suit rumpled, nursing a drink. Their eyes met briefly. He looked away first. She felt no triumph, just a quiet satisfaction. He was irrelevant now, a relic of an era that no longer had room for bullies. Sophia stepped onto the stage that night to accept an award for mentorship. She dedicated it to every young creative who'd ever been made to feel small. Success isn't just about winning, she said, voice steady and strong. It's about building something better and leaving the toxicity behind. The applause thundered. In the back of the room, Dick slipped out early, unnoticed. As Sophia walked along the lakefront afterward, the Chicago skyline glittering like possibility, she smiled. The bully boss who once loomed so large was now just a shadow she'd outrun. And in the city's relentless hustle, she'd proven the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's obsolescence.